Good morning, everyone. If you can hear me, raise your hand. Good morning to everyone. This morning, during breakfast, I had a really wonderful conversation with some of the delegates, and we're not exactly going to do this, but I just wanted to mention that we said it would be kind of interesting about last night, and just some of the dreams that have come out of this time of being together. So that might get mixed into some of the conversation today, because there's also messages coming to us in other ways. We're going to begin with our morning prayer, and then we're mixing things up a little bit. We're going to begin with our morning prayer, and then we're very fortunate to have Naomi Klein, who is going to be Skyping in. And we have a set time for that. We want to respect her time. And then we'll be doing our opening welcome, so we're switching things around a little bit. And then after that, I'll be sharing how the day will unfold. I don't want to take up a lot of time now because prayer is more important than scheduling, but we're going to do a little bit different than when we wrote in our program, because we want to have an opportunity for people here to share more openly about some of the campaigns they're working on. There's been some requests to talk about petitions, and this is an open platform for that. So I'll talk about that in a little bit, but we're very, very happy to now have prayers coming from Ecuador. And Brazil. Both. We are being treated to both of these beautiful women here.
Bom dia. Como na minha tribo, no meu povo, só os pajé faz oração, pede proteção, e eu ainda não sou pajé.
Good morning, everyone. Because in my tribe, only the shamans make the prayers. I'm not allowed to make a prayer.
E quando eu for, vou me preparar para isso, para quando chegar aqui, no próximo encontro, eu poder abençoar, fazer oração para a proteção de todas nós.
And now this time when I go back to my tribe, I want to ask them to train me so next time I come here, I'm able to do that as well. And to bless all of you.
Então vou começar com uma música que revolucionou as mulheres do Xingu.
So I'm going to start with a song that is a revolutionary song for the women on the Xingu.
Porque antes elas não eram escutadas, elas só trabalhavam, e no momento que os homens foram pescar, elas aproveitaram esse momento.
Because before they were not heard, so they were only working, and then they took advantage of the men that went fishing one day, and they did a revolution.
E é isso que nós estamos fazendo aqui. Nós estamos fazendo uma revolução, nós estamos unindo as mulheres para o bem do nosso povo.
And that's what we are doing here. We are doing a revolution. We are uniting women so we can change the future.
E eu vou cantar para vocês.
So I'm going to sing for you.
Mas vai ser no microfone? Eu seguro o microfone. Tá. Então, vou cantar. Achatapi, achatapi, oh. Achatapi, achatapi, oh. Iawaiare, oh. Yamurikumare, oh. Ahaha, ahaha. Achatapi, achatapi, oh. Achatapi, achatapi, oh. Iawaiare, oh. Yamurikumare, oh. Ahaha, ahaha. Essa é a música. E eu espero que essa canção motive vocês e que nós podemos formar uma rede de pessoas, de mulheres conectadas para o mundo melhor, para nós achar uma solução, uma ação, para nós começar a agir, para mudar esse mundo, para mudar esse quadro.
I hope this song can inspire you so we can really unite, create a network, and make this planet a better one, so we can really change and make the difference.
Obrigada.
Thank you.
Good morning. Nos pidieron hacer la bendición de la mañana.
They asked us to do this morning blessing,
Y me puse a pensar qué sería lo adecuado.
and I thought, what is going to be appropriate?
Como es un encuentro de mujeres, pensé en una mujer que es como la diosa del amor y la felicidad.
So I thought about singing a song about a woman who is the goddess of love and happiness.
Ella era muy libre en toda la selva amazónica, pero fue castigada por los hombres y la encerraron en la montaña.
She was free and roaming all over the forest, but she was jailed and punished by the men.
Pero los tiempos van cambiando y los antiguos dicen que esta es la época en que ella volverá a salir de su encierro.
But the times are changing, and the ancient ones tell us that this is the time that she's going to be freed from her confinement.
Ella saldrá, su risa retumbará la selva y todos los males se doblegarán.
So she's going to be freed, and with that, the men are going to have to back off. And she brings in the smiles of the people.
Su canción es esta y lo utilizan los grandes yachaks.
Okay, this is the song that she's going to sing for us, her song.
Pasusupai warminiñu kagania manaruna warmichu nyukaga urkuku mandami yukshiri munimiaria kangunaga nyukataga runawarmi chari nishachari rikuwa ungichi pasusupai runawarmi mani nyaupagma washama hatung kalinyambita shinara shashamu warmi mani yaria.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to be Skyping Naomi Klein.
Hello. I'm live? Okay. Hello? Hi. Hi, everyone. Wow, I'm so jealous of everything that's going on in New York. You've assembled just a spectacular collection of heroes, and I wish so much that I could be there with you in person, seeing some of my personal heroes. I think it's so important that this gathering is happening, and that women's voices and, more importantly, feminist values and a feminist worldview is being brought to the forefront of the climate debate and being valued. I've spent the past 5 years working on a book about climate change, and it's looking at why we are where we are at right now, why we have really failed collectively so spectacularly to meet this existential crisis. And I don't think there is any debate about the fact that we failed. It's not about pointing fingers. It's just about looking at the track record of the fact that we have known collectively about the reality of climate change without any plausible deniability since the late 80s. And what I have realized over the course of my research is that there are many reasons for this failure, but a lot of it had to do with a case of spectacularly bad timing, by which I mean that this crisis came to world attention at the very worst possible time in which we could have been confronted with a crisis that demanded such profound collective action. So if we think about the fact that 1988 was the year that James Hansen testified before Congress saying that he was virtually certain that human activity was causing global warming, let's think about what else was happening in that period. This was the year before the Berlin Wall collapsed, when history was declared over, and the whole idea that there is no alternative to brutal deregulated capitalism became a triumphant ideology around the world and was spread around the world through free trade agreements and through institutions like the World Trade Organization. And when I talk about things like this, I sort of get accused of bringing ideology into the debate. And what I'm trying to argue is that ideology has shaped this debate since the very beginning, because climate change arrived on our doorstep, collectively on our labs, when this brutal ideology of rampant individualism and fetishizing greed above all else was globalized around the world. And we see the carbon impacts of that rampant consumerism in very obvious ways. But beyond the carbon impacts of globalizing a completely unsustainable consumption model, we also have the ideological impacts of the fact that the ways in which we were told we had to respond to this crisis were enormously ideologically constricted. Everything had to fit within the market ideology. So we tried to shoehorn this so-called issue, and I don't think climate change is an issue. I think climate change is a message that is telling us that our entire relationship with the earth is utterly unsustainable, and we need to hear that message because it is telling us that we must evolve collectively. And we can't treat it like one issue on a list of other issues. It's much deeper and much more profound than that. So we tried to shoehorn this issue, this message, into this dominant ideology. So we left it to the corporations to fix it. And we told ourselves that we could fix it by shopping more, but just shopping for more green products. And we weren't allowed to be confrontational with the corporations that were, causing this crisis. I've been part of the movement calling for the divestment of fossil fuel stocks at universities and other public institutions. And, I went on tour with Bill McKibben about this time last year, and it was amazing, the hunger out there for this kind of confrontational tactic, really taking the fight to the fossil fuel companies and speaking in the language that they understand, which is the language of money. People were so ready for that. They packed out halls, 2,000, 2,500 people in almost every city. But what was so striking to me in those moments was that why were we the first people to call for this tactic? There had been other divestment campaigns against individual companies or against one sector of the fossil fuel industry, coal, for instance. But there hadn't been a comprehensive call to divest from the companies that were at the heart of the climate crisis. And that's what really got me interested in looking at why that is. So, when we don't take on the ideology that underlies this crisis, and it goes beyond just the past 35 years of neoliberalism. It's the ideology of that underlies Western culture. It's the ideology of ever more land, more people to exploit. And if we make a really, really big mess, then we'll invent some incredibly ingenious technology that will clean up that mess for us. This is the narrative we've been living really since the scientific revolution. And this is why climate change is so incredibly hard for us, particularly in the West, to metabolize, because it is so deeply challenging to us. And I think we need to acknowledge that. We talk a lot about climate change denialism being something that is just a sort of ailment that impacts the extreme right of the Democratic Party, the people who go to the climate change denial conferences put on by the Heartland Institute. But the truth is we are all climate change deniers to some degree or other. We are climate change deniers just to get through the day, just to go to a conference, just to somehow numb ourselves to our own participation in this. And this is where I think the women's movement has so much to bring to this debate, because I think one of the failures of environmentalism was to fail to realize what a profound psychological shock climate change posed to all of us. And the women's movement understood that when you upend people's worldview, when you tell people that everything they were brought up to believe wasn't true, and that they'd been lied to by the people they trusted most, you also had to stick around to pick up the pieces, that wasn't just a political issue, it was a psychological and a spiritual issue. And you needed a movement that took care of people's bodies and souls, and didn't just bombard them with scary information and then tell them, go out and be an activist now. Because actually, when you upend people's worldview, what they want to do is curl up in a ball and collapse because they don't know what to do. And you have to also stick around. So you have to stick around to pick up the pieces, and you also have to offer an alternative worldview. And that's what I think is so exciting that's happening around the world with the emergence of the whole discourse around rights of Mother Earth, the growing respect for Indigenous knowledge, which we see here in Canada with the emergence of the I Don't Know More movement, and understanding that our best teachers are the people who never believed in this worldview in the first place and kept alive other worldviews, other ways of relating to the earth, that were not this linear, constant growth narrative, but understood that when you take, you have to also give back. You have to also take care. So this is what I think the women's movement needs to bring to the climate movement, a much more holistic approach to this issue that understands that this has always been about worldview. And we can't be shy about that. We can't, be afraid of being too radical, because I think one of the things that we hear all the time is we don't have time for these deep solutions, right? This is such a big crisis that we can only deal with the symptoms. But that's actually the thinking that has governed the climate movement now for going on 3 decades. And the track record of soaring emissions speaks for itself. Just dealing with the symptoms doesn't work. We won't do it. If we separate the economy from the environment as if they're two separate things, and not realize that the economic crisis and the ecological crisis are indeed the same crisis, born of the same logic of exploitation, whether of people or the planet, then every time there's an economic crisis, the environmental crisis will be thrown under the bus and will be told it's a luxury to care about the environment. And this is happening all over the world. You can see it particularly acutely in Europe right now, in countries like Greece, where the economic crisis is so severe, and they're told that the way out of their economic crisis is to drill for oil and gas, and have open pit gold mines in some of the most beautiful parts of their country. So we can no longer afford to separate the economy from the environment and treat them as as separate issues. We can no longer afford to just deal with the symptoms, because what we know is that that's a losing strategy. And that in fact, we need this deeper discussion. We need to dig deeper. We need to talk about worldviews. And this is where I think a feminist analysis and an anti-racist analysis that at its very core questions the dominance-based worldview, whether it's domination of the earth or domination of people, and puts forward another worldview, is our only hope. Because actually, if you look at the polling and the research around why people are so disengaged from climate change, it's not because they don't believe the science, and it's not because they don't believe that there are technologies that could help us. You know, they know that there are renewable technologies out there. What they lack is hope in humanity. This is what the research shows again and again, is that people are profoundly hopeless about their fellow human beings. They believe that people are too greedy, and too individualistic, too competitive to rise to this challenge, because people understand that you can't get out of this crisis without collective action, without strong internationalism, without a clear and unrelenting humanity governing everything that we do. And everything in our culture tells us that we are incapable of that we are too greedy, too atomized, too out for ourselves. So in a way, our task is to hold up another mirror of what humanity can be, and help people to believe that they're capable of rising to this challenge. And transformative movements of the past have never accepted the status quo as it is and just adapted to it and just catered to it. Every transformative movement of the past has sought to hold up a version of ourselves that is better than what we thought we were. And that's how the great victories of social movements have been won in the past, whether the abolition of slavery or the rights of women to vote. We never accept the status quo and the dominant worldview and accept that and try to fit our issues within it. We change that worldview. And only when we do that will climate change be the catalyst for the evolutionary moment that we all know we need in short order. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share a few thoughts with you.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Thank you very much. Wow, that's a really great way to start our day. I think that conversation is something that we need to bring into our sessions as we go throughout the day. Worldview, I think that's what we've been talking a lot about, having so many of our Indigenous sisters here to really share different worldviews with us, and also the fact of really coming from a feminist perspective. I think it's a really good way as we go into our strategy sessions today. And now we reverse things a little bit. We're doing our morning welcome.
Shubh Shakal, that's Bangla, from Bangladesh, where we say good morning. I am because you are. Thank you, Mother Earth, Mother Nature, Mother Water. I'm here because of them. And I would also like to thank my fellow friends, Obspray and Sally, for making this happen. This has been an amazing few days and an awesome experience. So thank you for inviting me here. I believe that the personal is political. Why do I say that? I would like to share that with you, and I want you to join me in a journey. I came back from the UK to join ActionAid Bangladesh in 2007, June. By July, there was one round of floods affecting the very communities that I work with. In the next 3 weeks, there was landslide. So I rushed there to work with the communities. Again, by August, there was another round of floods, and I was working with those communities. Then I had to rush to the area where there was water logging.
in an area where people had never suffered waterlogging. Women could not go out for the call of nature because there was water everywhere. And then, November, there was Cyclone Cedar, a typhoon. So you can imagine I didn't know how to keep my head above the water, literally above the parapet. And as a rights advocate, as a human rights advocate, as a development practitioner, I was being challenged. These were shocks, these were stresses that questioned that whatever development work we have been doing, it can be washed away, it can be meaningless if we don't look at it from the lens of climate change, if we don't understand what was happening. While I was struggling, the communities I work with could explain. They said, no, this is not natural disasters, not the frequency, the intensity of these disasters. There was something wrong, there was something else happening. And they could start making that link with the climate change. This is my motivation for working, taking up issues of climate change and climate justice. So I want to share with you the messages of the people that I work with. This is Afroza. I put some paper on your table. She lives in an area which is near the Sundarbans. The Sundarbans is where the Royal Bengal tiger comes from, the largest mangroves in the world. She lives on the edges. She was struck in 2008 by Cyclone Isla. I know you have been experienced disasters in the USA, but you cannot compare. It's incomprehensible what these communities face because they have the minimal. I'm not trying to picture a gloom and, end of the world picture, but what I want to leave with you is that these women bounced back. Though they were living on the open air, they were living on the dams, they didn't have water. They had to walk for 5 hours to get the water. And when they did get it, they would give it to their children, but they would drink the saline water, have diarrhea, and then get back next morning to make sure that there was food security where they were. They have not given up. They refuse to give up. And therefore, I would like to bring their message to you. And what is their message? They want to know that how the women in the Western world, in developed world, in the Annex I countries are taking up this cause. Perhaps we can connect. Perhaps those of you in this room, you can connect by Skype. The Skype that we do with friends here, maybe we can take it to the community. Perhaps some of you can tell them that you are taking up their cause. You are putting pressure on your governments. You are challenging the dominant narrative. They have one plea to you. Please stop the mega infrastructure projects coming to their countries, to these communities. It's ruining what they have, and they want you to put pressure so that those corporates, those companies can stop that. I just want to finish with there's a song by Rabindranath Tagore, who's the Nobel laureate from Bangladesh, from Bengal. He's a Bengali poet. And in Bangla, the song goes, Amar mukti aloe aloe, Amar mukti ei akashe, Amar mukti ghashe ghashe, Amar mukti ei akashe. My freedom is in this light. My freedom is in this grass. My freedom is in the sky. Let's enjoy that freedom. Thank you.
You're great. So what we'd like to do is have a little bit different than what's on the program right now. And we're inventing a session that we simply called sharing. And there's several of you who've asked to share some proposals and petitions and some announcements. I think we'll start with Casey Camp, then you would like to go next. Say your name. Nadezhda, thank you. And I know, Natalie, you would like to go and say something. Are there others of you that would also like to? Nolene, is that you? I can't see far that back. Hassan? Nima? Oh, and we're going to start with the film. Okay. I'm saying it in that order so you know when to come up. Oh, you are, but she can still make her, Nadezhda, you can still make your announcement. Is anyone else, did I catch everyone? Okay, so let's do it in that order. We're going to start with the film, and then you can just come up, and let's, give people like 3 minutes so that we can go through everyone in this time. And then we're going to have a networking session. People have requested to just have some time to talk to one another. And then we're going to do our heavy lifting right after that of going into our sessions around the working groups.
Just this morning, especially on these initiatives that people are bringing, it's fantastic because it's an opportunity to have everyone here bring forward the things that were not on the agenda or that they think are especially important. So that's one reason for this space. The other reason is just you should all congratulate yourselves. Every single working group finished its job last night, which is why we don't need that session this morning. So give yourselves a hand for that. The bad side is I haven't finished editing them all together, but what we will have, as Osprey said, after this session of sharing, and then there'll be the networking, and then you should come and check with me about your group, what you sent me. But after the networking, then we'll be giving it back out to everyone. You'll have it like an hour. We'll work on sort of combining them, and then we'll be considering the entire agenda, everyone's items together in the session that's scheduled for that. So. But thank you for all your inputs and also for Marta and I started working on them last night to pull them all together into one thing, and everyone did a lot of great work. So if you have any other input you want to give after this section of sharing and initiatives, please come talk to me about as we're compiling the collective inputs from the working groups. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Claire. And that means probably they got 2 hours of sleep last night. So thank you for all your input, Claire and Marta as well, and work on that. So with that, let's go ahead and see the film that Atosa brought.
Somos governantes desse planeta. Pelas nossas mãos passam decisões políticas que impactam o crescimento econômico, a inclusão social e a proteção ambiental.
Nós temos um governo que está violando nossos direitos, que está a todo tempo nos massacrando, tentando destruir a nossa vida.
Temos a responsabilidade perante a história e perante os nossos povos de fazer da Rio+20 o momento de firmar compromissos para o futuro que queremos.
O governo do Brasil, eles querem fazer coisa ruim no nosso rio, fazer coisa ruim no nosso aldeia. Ele quer acabar com os índios.
Have just systematically talked to Snoop at all the constitutional and legal requirements to consult with the people in the areas that the dams are going to affect. They don't give, if you pardon the expression, a damn.
O compromisso com a vida, com o bem-estar das pessoas, com o bem-estar de milhões de homens e mulheres que habitam este planeta. Compromisso que será concretizado com o desenvolvimento sustentável, que se pode traduzir em 3 palavras: crescer, incluir e proteger. Estamos reunidos no Rio de Janeiro para dar passos audaciosos, para mostrar coragem, para assumir responsabilidades. Estamos aqui porque o mundo demanda mudanças. Porque o mundo demanda mudanças. Porque o mundo demanda mudanças.
Mais uma vez o governo fala que nós estamos impedindo o progresso. Não, nós estamos querendo manter a nossa cultura. Para eles progredir, eles estão mexendo na terra do pessoal, na terra do meu povo.
Eu video mani governo melhor amline video moral pre mulu kute me kukireke kute kaju ninguém romni kukireke.
Então a gente está decepcionado com tudo. Nós somos poucos, nós precisamos de apoio, muito apoio mesmo.
Thank you for that. Oh, very, very heartbreaking. And I don't know if you saw that is Maya Lu, who is in the film, one of our sisters in the film. Okay, Casey? This is what we're here for. It's really
Thank you, Osprey. Thank you for that. We share your struggles. We share in our prayers with you. Good morning, everybody. Again, the sun rose this morning, right? So we're blessed with another day together. We're blessed with being able to share our struggles with one another, as well as our triumphs, as well as our way forward. I believe I heard the word evolution when we were watching the film this morning. And it's a great thing to be part of that evolution, and a great thing to be among all of you this morning. We will change this. Yeah. I'm here to speak a little bit about the carbon trading program. So I'm just going to take a few moments of your time to tell you how it directly impacts the Ponca people, and that will give you an idea of the impact across the world, specifically the REDS program, but also any form of carbon trading that allows people like the ones on my reservation to continue to kill us. Basically, ConocoPhillips is on our reservation. The refinery, the tank battery, the underground pipelines, the poison-making centers. ConocoPhillips, as well as any of the other major petroleum or extractive industries, will tell you that they will pay you to buy, to plant trees and other forms that are not naturally in your area. And they will give millions of dollars to indigenous people as well as other nations across the globe to do this. And in turn, what you do for them if you accept this REDS program, if you accept carbon trading, and if you accept the money for doing these things, is that they will pollute more where I live. So those 600 to 800 people that live locally that I told you about will no longer be able to breathe. We will form new forms of cancer. The autoimmune diseases will skyrocket. The lungs, the hearts, the joints of our bodies will continue to deteriorate. So on your tables, there's a piece of paper there that I'd like you to all look at. And it says carbon trading, CDM in red, new forms of violence against women and not women's empowerment. As women and our allies, please add your name and or your organization's support to the letter below to voice your opposition to the World Bank and United Nations and State of California's false solution, underline false solution, to climate change, which includes carbon trading, carbon offsets, and clean development mechanisms, and reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, or REDS. We demand that the World Bank, the United Nations, State of California, reject these market-based, land-grabbing, false solutions to climate change, which are bad for the planet, violate the rights of indigenous women, children, youth, and unborn, and do not protect the forest, and increase violence and abuses against indigenous and local communities. And I'd encourage you all to sign these if you would, please. Make copies if you would, please. And the Ponca people, as well as our Mother Earth, thanks you so much for listening.
Thank you. The next person, Nadezhda? Do you want a little bit of time more? Okay, so we'll put you at the other end. I think it was Natalie, or, yeah.
Hi everyone, I just wanted to take this opportunity to let you know of 1 Million Women's, I guess, vision for the next 3 years and what our plans are over this, well, what our plans are, like our immediate plans. And it is to go international. And the thing, the focus of 1 Million Women, I mean, we have such different stories in this room, and mine is about connecting with women across the world that live lives like me and that are disconnected to this issue for whatever reason, that continue to live a life where we need 4 planets to support us, overconsume, use too much energy, waste food, and are completely disconnected. And 1 Million Women has this philosophy that if you are not acting in your own life, if we're not acting in our own lives, how can we connect on this issue? How can you truly get behind this? How can you find your voice? How can you put pressure on governments if you're completely disconnected and just carrying on business as usual? So our goal is to reach women right across the world, in the developed world, to live a new way of life, one that less is more, one that has the least impact on the planet. We have tools, we have action plans, we have a whole suite of things that connect women. So my call to action to anyone in the room that can get behind 1 Million Women, that could take it to your country, that could help us expand, particularly in the US, because that's the next stop. Anybody that would like to support us, please come and see me or Bronte in the back of the room there, and anything you can do. And if you just want to share your stories with us that we can share with the women of Australia, we would really appreciate it. So thanks. Any support you can give us to take this global.
Marta, did you have a question? Or, you have a question? And then we'll go to our next.
Okay. It's just that, you know, we heard the sister in the video. Then we heard the sister from Asia. We heard the indigenous people making a call to us. We cannot just continue going as business as usual. This thing that the indigenous people are saying affects all of us, and I know because the very same thing, and you haven't heard me say too much of what's happening in my country, but we have a very small country with only coastline in the Pacific, and it's being sold for tourism, and it's the indigenous people that are being affected. So I hope that we figure out how to do this work, because that is our agenda, to figure out how to be present in all these things that we have to do. So that's my question to all of us, because it's my question to myself too.
Thank you very much, and that is exactly right. As we head into our sessions on the Women's Climate Action Agenda, I really hope that this question of our Indigenous sisters is, really in the forefront. It's very, very clear. This is something we need to really address immediately. Okay, who is next? We had an order, and I forgot the order. I'm sorry. Noeline? Help me out here with the order that we went through. And if other people want to add in, there's more people who came into the room, we'll continue.
Thank you, and I'll be very quick. So I just wanted to continue this. The submissions from the Women's Major Group, can I just say, please share it online. All it is women@rio.org, but you can just Google Women's Major Group, because there's such a richness of analysis that women have been working on, including Marta and others who are with us in this room, so please use it. And there's 8 pages and 2 pages that, of submissions that you can just print off and take with you to different meetings. So one of the things that we're all trying to do is share resources so that we're not working so crazily as we've been doing. And then related to that, and this is really related to what's happening there, but there are those of us who've worked a long time to break open little bits of the hard institutions. So as we're in there, can you also feed us all the time with, with material that we can take in and text that really matters, so that it's not empty stuff that is going into these negotiations that are on all the time. So one of those things is a thing called the Bond Declaration by women who were at a conference earlier this year. And if you can sign on to that declaration, again, just go to the Women's Major Group. You can just send your name, institutional details to me, and I'll add them on. It'd be wonderful to get as many more names, because what we're going to do is take that bond declaration strongly and heavily into the CSW meeting next year, the Commission on the Status of Women. And that's maybe the second last thing I wanted to say is, the women's movement have regular spaces where we have, access to some of the decision makers. And please do come into those spaces. Even if you don't come in heavily because you have lots of other work, at least make the connections so that we can be there with even more diverse voices. So I think that's important. And the last 2 things I'd say is, we need to aggregate all the information that we have on where communities are successfully resisting as well, like claim for ourselves what we're doing and what we're doing right, just like these videos do. In Papua New Guinea, we just heard 2 days ago that the Papua New Guinea government has kicked BHP out of a particular Oktedi mine. I don't know if some of you know the Oktedi mines. That's a huge development, but nobody's speaking about it. So we need, we need to be, amplifying wherever things are working right for us. Let's talk about why and how we're doing that. Last thing, the TPPA, the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, I think it's actually one of the most terrifying things that's coming out, because it's a new form of trade negotiations. There's 600 corporate advisors in those rooms and not one civil society. And it covers all the rim from Bolivia all the way through New Zealand, Australia, up through, right up towards, they're trying to get China into the room. But really what it is the US policy and a thing they're calling the Pacific pivot. So they're moving a lot of their strategic attention to Asia Pacific. So please be with us and help us to fight that fight as well. Thank you.
Okay, I think, Nima, I think. Nima? Oh, okay. Is that ready? Okay, thank you. We didn't know what you were pointing at. Okay, so we'll go to Nima, and then, I can't quite see back there with the light. I can only just see hands. Okay.
Shinga mamu na ikaga hano. Nkanko nali kule nka mwana alamaga omulubala. Nabona kandamire bwinja mango nali damire omulubala.
Ndakukuza omuntu uli mwalukiya sawanga muka okulolaku atamenyekanye n'abantu obubukene bwatuma aleeta kuti zikusamalukiya atusambalasa tutakituusala twemuli
Okufata ebiyonaalya kusanya nkengo omulubala takifata ebiyonaalya naana shangi zatalya kalamu nalinamiremu emunga emboho yange okumusimu ataliko nkibandamire manake kusenga nandame eno emisisali donke mwana mwenera muzungu alolire kusindamire malokenga nyete kumukagalimu mali batenge omuki omumusimu ebiro byokumica omucanya amatunda momucanya sabasensa mabona lubado lwamulero mubalami etofauti ate okuta batulamira omuluce katakutulamira juhano tutabonehewa eiri sawa sasi yanokunyamasa omulubada
ninyirino omfecuka kinene bwenene ndahewe mucirya nola Ritaring Yanonga,
Deforestation in the Democratic Republic of Congo's rainforest is occurring at an alarming rate. Rampant illegal logging, mining, and slash and burn clearing for charcoal and fuel wood are a few of the forces spurring the destruction of the forest. The impending conversion to big-scale agriculture for the production of palm oil, rubber, and sugar, along with industrial logging, will only hasten the loss of Congo's rainforest. Logging roads provide access for poachers and hunting for bushmeat. The demise of forest animals causes the extinction of many species of trees, including old-growth trees that store massive volumes of carbon in their trunks and function as vital safeguards against climate change. Erosion is another consequence of deforestation. Trees protect the land's vegetative blanket, which shelters the soil from wind and water erosion. The loss of Congo's trees is devastating to Africa's indigenous people and the entire planet.
Napate hewa yechuchoshi kwa busalama ndo mvasu balinene junyi bidalembe uidi napate nyama sokulya mwalukia matunda menja mafumu mwalukia namapata ndapata shida nanda lusukuna ikako vitale mbukasi nalwalire sibanyekamo vitale obufumu bunali mwaluki yabwa nanyibuka nalolo kukasi akalamu kali nyanya nakali nishishi ndi tofauti.
Thank you so much, Nima. Thank you.
Good morning, namaskar, Tastile. It's my great honor and my great pleasure to share some thought and my feeling here, coming all the way back from home, traveling for almost 18 hours in the plane. So I feel like it's worth coming here and joining hands with the women across the globe. So this is a really great strength. This is a really great energy that has given me to move ahead despite the all challenges we have back home in our country, and especially addressing the climate change in the lives of women, indigenous peoples, marginalized communities, the people on need on the ground. And I would like to give a big vote of thanks to both Sally and Osprey for your wonderful work. And I would like to request all our friends to give a big applause for their great contribution. Congratulations, Sally and Osprey, for your great contribution. And I have just brought one small presents. This is the soul from our indigenous women with whom I am working. It's a preservation and traditional practices of income generations, and this is the nettles made out of from the fiber from the forest, and this is the handmade with the. So I would like to offer to Sally and Osprey. I would like to request to come here. This also represents the indigenous women, and and all the wishes from women, and give energy and strength to move ahead. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. And Osprey, this is a handmade. Wow. Thank you. Yeah. And this is a token of love from the indigenous women on the ground for pushing, for strengthening, for joining the energy and the hands together for you to lead us to move ahead, and all the women around the world will be there to join hands for the same cause, and for addressing for the betterments, for the harmony relations across the globe, for the betterment of the future of women and indigenous peoples. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
Hi everybody, good morning. I wanted to tell you first of all that something that maybe you don't know, that is that Ecuador became the first country in 1924 to allow a woman to vote. So it became the first country in the Americas to allow a woman to vote. I don't know if you knew that. We don't make such publicity as the rest of the world does, but we were that first country. And I feel that because we're such a small country and we have a very empowered civil society, there are tons of things that we can do. And there are tons of things that we can do to lead the way to a change, to recognize rights, to move ahead. Right now, what we're coming here to tell you is that Ecuadorian civil society is really empowered to now that we're living not only a social crisis, but also an economic crisis and an environmental crisis and a spiritual crisis. It is the time to leave oil on the ground. Yesterday, Mary Robinson was telling us that we need to do it. The director of NASA is telling that if we take out all the resources from the fossil fuels from the world, we'll become a sort of Mars. You know, we'll have desertification and the world will not tolerate it. So we know that we need to leave oil on the ground. We know that we have to do that. And Ecuador had been saying that for 6 years. And a month ago, they decided to exploit that oil. Not only in the Yasuni territory, but also in the territory where Patti lives in the center-south of the Amazon. But people in Ecuador are waking up. It's maybe because of the effect of having 5 years of rights of nature in our constitution. Who knows? Maybe because we are a strong civil society. Maybe because we have a very strong indigenous peoples movement. But people in Ecuador are waking up. And we need your support in many ways to help Ecuador be the first country where people of Ecuador, not the government, but the people of Ecuador decide to keep that oil in the ground. And that is possible. So what can we do? We were able to give votes to women. We were able to give rights to nature. And we are telling the world that we want to keep the oil underground, although we have 20% of our oil reserves still in the Amazon. We want to say we're running out of oil and we need a different model of development. What can you guys do? First of all, there's a letter going around, and I'll ask Osprey, I know that we are creating a network with this, but I'll ask Osprey that we can send it to all of you. There's one letter that is especially directed to academics and intellectuals who are saying, because of my background or because of what I've studied or because of my work, I can say and I can ask the government to keep that oil on the ground, and I support the Ecuadorians that want to keep that oil on the ground. Second of all, there is a petition that we'll also be sending for the Center-South. The Center-South was open last November, and there weren't enough companies interested in that territory. Maybe because the negotiations were bad, but I really do believe that all companies were not interested in going because they know the strength of the people who live there, and they don't want that trouble. So there is a petition going on to stop the 11th round of oil, which doesn't even have, it barely has enough oil. You know, it's like more than 3,000 hectares, and it doesn't have enough oil, but our government is so, and the world is so thirsty for oil that they're trying to get oil from everywhere. So there's a petition for that to support the resistance fights in the Center-South to stop the 11th round, and we'll also be sending that around. And finally, there are many other ways to help, as I was saying, writing about how to support Ecuador. Even there are some people that want to get the funds that we need because they're saying we need the funds for poverty. That's another issue. I don't think that we should get so much involved with that. As maybe one of you guys has the connections or something. But the thing is that we also need to get 1 million signatures to start a national referendum in Ecuador, so the people of Ecuador can decide to leave that oil in the ground. And there are a lot of political issues there that are stopping us from having that democratic referendum. But we're trying our best, and we have, from some polls, we know that 65% of the population wants to leave the oil underground, so we have a chance. So we need your help. We need your help either by communicating, by signing, and all of that. What we'll do with Atosa and with Patti is that we'll do like a one page of an email that tells you exactly what you can do. If you can sign, if you can how can you cooperate, how can you sign the petitions, if you're an expert, how can you add up to that. Here in this conference, we've had 3 of the ambassadors for the Yasuni ITT initiative. That's Atosa, Vandana Shiva, and Jody Williams. And the 3 of them are going to sign a letter to the president. We've also been able to film a video with Vandana Shiva asking the president to withdraw his decision, and she was saying how disappointed she was. And all of these, videos, signatures, letters, all of that help. Not only because we want to stop and keep the oil underground, but also because the government is saying, okay, after we're done with oil, we'll start with mining. And that cannot happen in Ecuador. You saw what Ecuador is, and that cannot happen in Ecuador, especially with the people that are in Ecuador and that want to stop that oil from coming out. So just the petition, so you can be aware that we're going to be sending that to you. And thank you so much in advance for all your support.
Thank you very much. Okay, you still want to be last. Okay. Okay, while she's coming up, can you raise your hands again, and then we can figure out our order? Okay. I guess we let you come back, but maybe at the tail end, but yes. So, okay, we see. Okay, so let's do Rosemary, and then I can't see next to Rosemary. There's one other person over here. Kosha.
Good morning, everybody. I think I can see all of you smiling as I am smiling too. I'm so happy to be a part of this summit, and I really would like to, on behalf of you, if you would give me the right to thank Osprey, Sally, and Claire for their best effort they ever, they did to have this event happen. I think this is a very good summit, but I'm looking forward to have the completion of this summit through the next action. I would love to see on the website some of the cases like we saw here from the Congo and from Brazil that break my heart, and I bet your hearts as well. And we need to see these cases on the website with an open platform for our solutions and our support. And maybe it's kind of technical support, or maybe financial support, which is needed, or maybe political support, either on the national level or an international level. So I think that open platform would give us an opportunity to help other people in their countries to have these cases solved. And the open platform will be also a very good communication among all of us, and that will keep us in connection with everybody, all the time. Another thing is the alliance. I am part of the Global Forum of Rural Advisory Service, and this forum has a part for gender and rural advisory service. So I think if we start to open the door for all alliance, I think that would help us for more dissemination of our word and more support on the international level. I thank you again, and I really appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next. I think we had Rosemary. Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, got it. So you can say your name.
My name is Rosemary Olive Bone Inie. I'm from Cameroon, based in Tanzania.
I call this, where do we go from here? Like I said, I had known Osprey since 2008 when we met at the Eco City Conference in San Francisco. And she just came on to me and said, Rosemary, I didn't attend your talk, but I like what you're doing. I think we can work together. And from then on, I just had a sister on the other side of the planet. So, and when she told me about all these things, we're like, what are we going to do? And everything seemed so impossible, but today we are here and everything is possible. So I think that if this is possible, then anything that we want to do is possible. So I say, where do we go from here? Coming from Africa, very close to my heart, I tell people I cannot live anywhere apart from Africa. And for me, the next step would be having an African Women's Earth and Climate Summit. I was the one who wrote that, so let me spill out the beans. For 2015, we are already at the African Women's Decade, which is 2010 to 2020. And if you see what I'm wearing, it's all about women in Africa, the empowerment of our women in Africa. So it's for the International Day for the Woman. And we all talked about trainings, and I presented We Can here, which I'm also doing with Osprey. So we had We Can, which is Women Environment and Climate Action Network trainings. So for all my sisters from Africa, I think we can all work together for these trainings. But also, we have another project, which is also on the website, called The Flag, which is called the First Ladies Action on Climate Change. So it's actually called the Flag Africa Initiative. We've been working with this with Osprey for about 4 years now. And if you know your First Lady, if you're from Africa and your First Lady can host this, we are very happy to work with you and take it further. Thank you very much. And I also work for Jen Africa, which is called the Global Eco Village Network. Taking a program with Jen was one of the wonderful things that I had in my life. I know I did the UC Berkeley course, but the Jen course I did last year was so groundbreaking that was the best thing I did in my life. Because when we talk about solutions, the solutions are out there. Stay in an eco village, you would see what it means about living a low impact life. I had a chance to stay at the Sub-Saharan Eco Village last year when I was doing a 1-month course, and this was like heaven, because I'd never seen anything in my life like this. So we are going to have a world conference next year in Senegal. We are inviting all of you to be there. But this year, we are having our Jen Africa conference in Kenya. So if you're around and you want to come to because Jen is doing wonderful things, and we need to join together to do wonderful things. And Kosha, please can you come on? Please, Kosha. And Osprey. I knew Osprey in 2008, and I knew Kosha in 2012. But I think, what do you think? I think they are two sisters from different fathers. And I also wanted to link them together, and I'm here that today both of them are linking, because for me they have the same thoughts, they have the same motherly thoughts. When I met them, I yes, I have sisters that we can do this work together. So I'm so happy that Osprey and Kosha are here today, and I hope that both of you can become sisters like I am your sister. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Nadeja, we're going to have you come up. One of the things Claire was just mentioning to me is just to really make a distinction. Come on up. We're going to go into a whole session on the Women's Climate Action Agenda soon. So we're just making a distinction. This is to really focus on our petitions or our projects we're working on, and then we're going to actually get into the more proposals of ideas about what we're going to do in our session coming up.
Thanks, Osprey. And just also, I just want to have a second before we all break up, because we're with this session, is to remind that I misspoke before, and that the Indigenous and the Traditional Knowledge and Rights of Nature Working Group actually needs to meet again before we finalize what they put in the action agenda, because they didn't have a chance to review last night. before you spoke. I just want to give Malia a chance to just say where you want your group to meet when we break up. Can you stand? Okay, could you just stand and say? Okay, great. So that working group still has to meet and review the recommendations before they go into the printed matter. And then also, I just wanted to introduce my longtime colleague Nazdezhda, who along with Natasha Miranovna, who's here as a translator, the three of us has worked for many years on nuclear issues around the world. And Nazdezhda has a really important initiative that she's bringing to all of you for your signature. And I'm so excited that she's written this to come to this meeting. So, Nazdezhda.
I try to be shortly. First of all, I would like to tell thank you for everybody, because I received so many inspirations here from you, because I am living in such place where pro-nuclear people sometimes can be difficult for me to live there. And many people during our meetings come to us and asked us about Fukushima, and also we saw in internet, there are many comments and questions for participants about Fukushima. And also, maybe you will agree with me that now it is a huge environmental dirty place in what and mass emergency situation. And we offer to sign such special statement, which we name as a Fukushima statement. I will be not read all text. If you are interested, you can read on your table only our demands, what we demand. From whom? I think from United Nations, but also as an announcement for public. To immediately stop the dumping of radioactive polluted water into the ocean, to implement an immediate moratorium of the building of new nuclear power plants, to obligate nations and the nuclear industry to be fully insured for accidents, including of accidents that are the scale of Fukushima, to obligate countries and nuclear industry to immediately create trust funds with the necessary funding to allow safe dismantling of decommissioned nuclear plants, cleanup of uranium mines, and safe storage of nuclear waste for at least 100,000 years for all radioactive waste. To measure radioactive contamination and publish the data transparently in a worldwide accessible database, to obligate governments and food producers to inform the public about the contamination of the plant and animals and food products in their country due to the nuclear contamination, and to inform all citizens of the health impacts of nuclear radiation and the fact that risks are twice as high for women than for men. And our second statement, it is a statement about against intimidation of environmental activists and environmental defenders.
Just before we hear the second statement, just one fact that people should know if you haven't seen it in the news, but that is in the document, that the Japanese government and the TEPCO Corporation have just finally admitted this summer that 300 tons of radioactive contaminated water has been going into the Pacific every single day for the last 2.5 years. 3.5 tons, and they don't know how to stop it, and they haven't admitted it's going on. So. And there's a huge beginning of an international outcry. There are people bringing resolutions to the General Assembly. But now is the time for women and men and everyone to speak up on Fukushima. It's an unbelievable disaster. And Nazdezhda is taking enormous international leadership. So I encourage you to support her with that. And now at the second one. And then we're going to move to a break after that so the groups can meet. So we have one more. How many more do we have? Okay, and what I would just also say is if there's any further initiatives, remember we're going to meet in plenary after the break and all this afternoon. So some of them could come up this afternoon because we have to give the Indigenous Working Group time to get together, and also we promised everyone some time together just to network before people leave. So this isn't the last opportunity to raise something. But if you've already done, I think we have time now for how many more? Yep. Farah, is this a comment on this one, or is it another initiative? Well, can you say that only one group is going into working group? Everyone else has free time. All the other working groups gave their final documents. Can you say it at the beginning of the session when we consider the working groups? Or if you want, okay, let me come talk to you. Go ahead.
Okay, and now is a second special statement about defense of women, environmental and human rights activists and defenders. I think that maybe majority of you will be agree with me that we have many intimidations, especially in developing countries, but as I hear it and was surprised from Cepra that she also has intimidations if her son asked her why the government names her terrorist. And I think it is important to have such statement to show our solidarity with everybody, and our government knows that we know each other and we will be fight each other. And I will not read the text, but what we demand from United Nations to adopt a convention against environmental crimes and in defense of environmental and human rights activists. I may be offered to add nature defenders, which will obligate states and the International Court of Human Rights to prosecute corporations that intimidate, threaten and physically harm women, environmental activists and human rights defenders, and to take measures to protect the personal safety of women, environmental activists and their families and colleagues. Okay, and I would like to offer for you for sign these statements, and I would like to stop to finish my speech. Sorry, because I still feel difference in time, 12 hours, and I would like to finish by Russian song. I tried to think any Russian song about nature, but we so forgot about that. We have never been ingenious because our previous generations were moved to different countries, so maybe we don't know our roots, and maybe it's our problem. But all Russian songs about from women who is finding men and so sad. But I remembered one song from my childhood, which maybe created me as I am human rights defender. Я не устану, не уступлю, не испугаюсь, не струшу. Все я сумею, везде я пройду, клятвы своей не нарушу, клятвы своей не нарушу. Я это сделать должен, в этом судьба моя. Если не я, то кто же, если не я? It does mean in my fight I will not die, I will not give up, and I will not scared, and I will be not afraid. I must to do it. It is my destiny. Who is not me? Who? Thank you.
Sabahınız hayır. It means in Azerbaijani language, good morning. Of Caspian. Difficult periods. My childhood, I spent my childhood in fears. I grew up in the fears. Like I was in 6 years old when Soviet Union destroyed, and when in Azerbaijan began the war, and million refugees from the conflict area, Nagorno-Karabakh, up to 20 years live in the tent cities, in the cold winter, in the hot summers, in the Hungary. And now, thanks God, we're not hungry. They have house, but conflicts continue till now. And in the conflict area, a lot of environmental problems, deforestation, the water resources unprotected, and also in Azerbaijani territory. We need, in the economic growth, impact to our environment, in the waters, rivers, for the industry, for the coal industry, oil industry, and Caspian Sea, biodiversity of the Caspian Sea is under the unprotected. And the oil pipeline, Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan, who is carrying Caspian oil to the Europe, to the world, it's also problematic for Azerbaijan, and also to Georgia, to the Turkey. And I think not only women, all of population have to protect the environment. This is our sustainability. And women, it's, I think, corn of the tree. Women can do a lot of things. They grow children, and they can to say that their children that you have, for environment is your, nature is your friend, best friend, close friend, and you have to protect that. And I would like to be optimist. In the MDG period, unfortunately, we forgot about limits, but I very hope in the post-2015, post-MDG, we will recognize limits, especially regarding the environment for the nature. And at the end, I would like to invite all of you to hold next summit in Baku. I can to do this, and I can to find the funds to hold this in Baku, and invite all of you. And this is our traditional head cover. Unfortunately, we didn't use it as a cover. This is real silk. And this is only in me. I would like to give this to Osprey, but I give a permission that when you will in Baku, I will give you all of your desk. And we are call that kalagaya. Yeah. I will not sing a song, like I have no voice, and I don't want to do with Azerbaijani best song something bad. Thank you all.
Okay, so this will be our last one, and then we're going to have a break, and the other working group can get busy while we're networking and having some coffee.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maíra Irigaray, and I'm the Brazil Program Coordinator for Amazon Watch. And it's an honor to be here accompanying Maya Lu and with all of you. So very quickly, because we were too emotional after the video to speak. And we just want to say that the Justice Now that you saw in the video is a campaign, and we are trying to pressure. One of the sides of the campaign is that we really want to pressure the Supreme Court to make a decision on indigenous consultation. This is extremely important. It could set a precedent for how consultation takes place in the future for indigenous people to be able to decide what's happening on their lands. So you can go on our website, amazonwatch.org, sign a petition. We have information of everything that is happening right now. And we also have a series of stories, Voices of the Xingu, so you can hear and see videos and read the stories of the people from the Xingu. There's so many important women here. If you have contacts with people from Brazilian government or with people that could help us we need allies. We need allies on the justice system. We need allies on the government side. And any contacts you might have, please send us, inform yourself. And if you also are in a meeting with President Dilma Rousseff, the president of Brazil, that sadly is a woman but not doing a good job, especially for the environment and for indigenous population. If you ever are in a meeting with her, please question her about those issues. Question her about all the things she preaches as the things Brazilian government are doing there and not doing. Question her about indigenous rights. And question her about dams in the Amazon and the big environmental projects, the big development projects they're creating for the Amazon rainforest, disregarding indigenous rights, traditional populations' rights in the environment. And also, we are going to have, and lastly, a big mobilization in Brazil on October 1st, with indigenous people all over the country are coming together to Brasilia. And one of the biggest things, I just got a request last night for 25K that they need to bring more indigenous from other parts of Brazil to Brasilia. So if you know foundations, projects, or people that want to contribute for this cause, we really need support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, we're going to have some refreshments, and we're going to resume in about 20 minutes. Thank you.
And remember, if you're leaving today, that checkout from the hotel is at noon, but you can bring your luggage down here and we'll store it in the room next door for you.
Check, check.
Okay, so we're going to get started here really soon. And, okay, great. We're going to get started really soon, and while we're waiting for one of the working groups to come in, I'm going to read some of the questions that have been coming into us online, and I'm speaking especially to our live stream audience. Thank you so much for participating with us, and your questions are important. And as we head into this next session on the working groups and the report backs from the working groups, and a session on where we're going from here, I think that we're going to be addressing these questions. So I'm going to read them out because we're using this time to allow, but thank you. And maybe that you could help. So these are the questions, and I really want the delegates to think about them as we're heading into the working groups and talking about the working groups and where we're going from here. One of the question is, what is IWECI envisioning in the next 5 years? That's one of the questions. Another is, do women in the summit know someone who has successfully established a center or an institute of indigenous knowledge? In the case of this being yes, I would like to be linked to this, as I'm in the process of establishing an institute of indigenous knowledge in Uganda. Yes, someone try. I would like a French speaker to please come up and help with this. I'm only able to translate some of the words. Do we have someone please come up? Natalie, do you speak French?
How are we going to ensure that these messages from the women, rural women that rely on the forests are acted upon, and how are we going to ensure that?
Thank you. Thank you very much. And this is the last question. How may we jointly work on bringing to the surface of awareness the reality of political actor of the huge multinational interests which Noeline Nabolivo brought forward at the end of the morning summit with the image of the bow tie? Can we identify with effective images the actions of the bow tie so we may know how to interact more effectively? Okay, so we're going to be bringing those thoughts and questions into our next section here. We're just waiting for that one last working group to come down the hall. Excuse me.
Good morning. I'm Trish from Texas. I think most of you know me by now, and I feel like I know all of you. And it's nice to know you. We're waiting for the last working group to come. And while we're waiting, I just want to give you a 1-minute message because it has been in the background and it has crept in here and there, but we have never really faced just one statement that I want to tell you. 21 of the 36 countries listed now as food-stressed by the UN are in Africa. What we have not spoken about is the question of starvation. And starvation is happening where I work in northern Ghana. The women have no community supports, they have no resources from the government, they cannot move somewhere because they cannot afford to. Abject poverty is defined as living on less than $1 a day. These women live on less than $5 a month. They are starving, and starvation does not have an epiphany moment. It does not have a violent action. It doesn't even know who to address itself to, because climate change is not something where you can blame one government or one corporation or one person. It's a long, slow, horrific, painful, suffering process. And I just want to remind us that when we talk about the issue of food security or food sovereignty, and we talk about agriculture, and we talk about water, all of these things, we are in the end talking about whether or not you are able to feed your children. Thank you.
Is everyone back in the room? I'm going to actually ask a favor because we're about to go into the, the final session. Could everyone move forward and fill up the tables up front? If we can get the energy in the room collected. If all the delegates who are still in the room, so that we have so please come and fill up the tables. If you're sitting way in the back and you're part of the deliberations, please come forward so that we can have as much energy as possible in the front of the room. Is there, also so we can see who's still here. could people show, where's there some seats at some of maybe this table over here? And this table here, there's a, are you, oh, so no one should sit at this table? Oh, don't sit at that table. Maybe over here on the right, this one. And we're waiting, oh great. Malia, is your group back in the room? They're on their way. Okay, we're just trying to get the energy up a little close. So everyone who's in the back is not, other delegates in the back? This is observers? Okay, great. Okay. And folks that are in the hall, if we can get you back in so we can get started, that would be great. And are there some volunteers who can just do a quick run around the lobby and make sure that, and the hallways, and get people back in the room? And we'll start in like 5 minutes, okay? How many people are there? Okay. Okay. Oops, this got turned off. If there's someone that you know that should be here that's part of one of your groups and still around, go find them and let's make sure we can get started, okay? Thanks. Sound, please. So, to bring our energy back together in the room, is there, first I just want to see who's here. Is Working Group 1, are you here, and do you have a spokesperson ready to present your findings? Sabine and the Working Group 1, Sabine and Sheila. Is Sabine in the room? No, I'm not asking you to attendance. Energy, yes. Okay, Working Group 2, which was, you're right now what you're receiving is a mostly unedited summary. You're getting a mostly unedited summary of the principal points of each of the groups, except for the Indigenous group, which we'll put up here. I'm not giving this to you to focus on it, but just as a background document for right now. So, Working Group 2, which is Forest, Seeds, Foods, and Agriculture. Who's going to report back? And you're in the room. Okay, great. Working Group 3, Freshwater, Oceans. Casey, you're going to do the report back? Or Marta? Or do it together? Okay. Working Group 4, which is Indigenous Peoples and Rights of Nature. Malia, will you be doing the report back? Great. And we will capture your group's comments up here, since I didn't want to include them since you hadn't edited them yet, okay? We can probably do that and let you go last. So I'll get our volunteer here to do that. Can you email it to me right now? If you email it to me, we'll get it printed so we can pass it out. Working Group 5, Media, Messaging, Dance for a Better World. Who's going to report back for you? Oh. Okay, you. Working Group 6, which is, oh dear, there are things in here that got printed that I didn't mean to, but that's okay. Working Group 6, Organizing Women in the Climate Movement. Okay, Natalie Eddy, you're going to report back. Working Group 7 on tar sands. Doing it jointly. Oh, okay. Who's, Sephora, others, who's going to report back for the tar sands group? Well, that's good. We'll nominate them when they're not in the room, and we'll. I'm sure that they're both. Atosa, will you be reporting back for the tar sands working group? Okay, great. Oh. Oh, okay. I look like I'm hiding in the shadows. And then Working Group 8 on climate finance. Are you in the room? And who's reporting back for Working Group 8? Together. Okay, great. Now we're just waiting for Osprey. Let's see. She went with what? Okay. Hang on. Wonderful volunteer. Where did he go? Everyone who doesn't have a copy yet, raise your hand. He's just collating some more. Okay, those of you who are waiting for copy, please move to the side. So to the side of the edge of the room. And go, Brian, please go to the edge of the room also, so you're not blocking the women here. Okay, please. So take those over there. If you need a copy, please go over there and Brian will give it to you. Sorry for, and Natalie, let's get going. Marta, where are you? I need your help. Okay. So Marta's just going to give a couple comments on what we're going to be doing here now, and then we're going to get started. So, thank you.
Good. Okay, compañeras, compañeros, this term, compañeros, compañeras, has to be earned. That means companions. And now we have done the work that we are going to be doing companionship. So now, this is the thing. You know, here what you have is what every group prepared. It has not been edited yet, but it's the essence of what the groups prepared. So at this point, we are asking you to work with us in terms of coming together and approving this process that later on will have to be edited. So she's going to give you more information, but come from that spirit. And then, you know, like we are going to continue the process later after that.
So what we're going to do is Marta will call up each group one at a time to give you a report. You've got 5 minutes. What we want you to focus on is the top items, the action items, not a lot of background. The background notes are in the document we passed out, but we'd like some of you did 3 actions and 3 local things, some of you did 3 policies and 3 actions, some of you did something more broad, but we want the essence of the top 3 things in each area that you want, and then we're going to copy those things here on the butcher paper. What we're going to do with each group is we're going to test for consensus on agreement on each group as we go through. So you'll have 5 minutes. Where's the timekeeper? You'll have 5 minutes to make your presentation, but I'd actually like you to give a yes. We have a question from Paloma. So where do you want the groups to stand? Okay, good. Well, that's perfect, because then those of us who will record will be here. So you're going to come from here, face the group to there, face the list. Is this on the live stream? Okay, so keep in mind that our deliberations are also being shared with a shout out to however the people are in the 36 countries around the world. Thank you for paying attention and for being part of this process. We're very welcome to have you be here with us. And what we will do is we'll call up each group one at a time, and then we're going to test for consensus on the items as they're being called up. So pass it on to Marta.
Yeah.
About that myself. Yes, there's a question to the group. I actually did not know this was online either. There's a wrap-up plenary. That's a good question. It's a little, unusual to have an internal deliberation out on a live stream. Yeah, I mean, I guess let's see if I'll take 2 or 3 comments to that topic. Who would like to speak to that? Yes, no, a delegate. Sally? Yes, and to our listening audience, we're going to have a little democratic process right now. Sally, do you?
So there's. I didn't hear what you said. So there's a couple ways that we can go, ladies, with this. One is that this is somewhat of an internal process that we're engaged here, that we're engaged in, and when we come together with our final recommendations at the end of this process, then that can be shared online. Or the deliberations can be opened and live streamed. So if we're doing this in a democratic way, I would ask you which which would you like to do?
If there's anyone in the room who feels that the process should be internal, this should be a question of consensus. So if there's anyone who would like to, feels that we should, and this is actually a surprise to me, I didn't realize this part was live stream. So how many folks would feel better or would prefer that the strategic deliberations not be on a live stream? No, oh my God, no. Okay, that's a large number, so I think we would need consent. We don't have consensus for the live stream. So what we're going to request is, and to our live stream audience, we really appreciate your participation so far, and we'll come back with a celebration at the end with the final documents, but we will record this for archival purposes, and we'll be back to the live stream for the closing parts of the session. So thank you, and we'll be coming back to our live stream audience for our consensus document and celebrations at the end. So I'm just going to allow them